Hey, thanks for tuning into my channel, Outside Michigan. Today, I'm hoping to do a couple of videos, probably maybe even a series of videos on what I hope is a practical application for the Thunderbolt Magnum solar panel kit from Harbor Freight. If you're paying any attention, you'll see that there are a lot of videos on this particular unit here. 100-watt solar panel kit, amorphous silicon solar cells. It's all right there on the box. I really don't know that much about solar. I'm not an expert on it, but what I do have is I'm a traveling musician, and just as of last year, last fall, I picked up this Palomino B1200 camper. It's a pop-up, lightweight, weighs about 1,100 pounds, and you know, obviously I can hook into shore power with it, and I have a battery backup system here that I use right here. This is a 114 amp hour EverStart Max battery, deep cycle battery, and a 1500 watt power inverter EverStart, which I got at Walmart, and just kind of hooked them together with this box that I got at Walmart. And last year, when my wife and I hit the road, we used this to power pretty much everything when we were boondocking. We spent a lot of time, some of the places we stay are like with friends, or I play at bars and clubs, and we stay behind those and hook up to their power. But when we have to have this for power, it seems to do most of the stuff that we need to do. And then I've got a Stanley battery charger, and when I'm on shore power, I just charge it back up. And I thought that was a bit of a pain. I've seen a lot of reviews on this kit, and there are a lot of folks looking at it. Most of them are pretty favorable, but they say it's good for experimenting or for for hobbying around, I guess. I'm going to try to get this to charge my batteries, because we drive a lot, we're on the road a lot. So what I'm going to try to do in this video series, the first thing I'm going to do is put it together, and it's going to be a real quick build video, which I'm going to speed up because you don't really need me to show you how to do it. The instructions, I guess, are pretty easy, and there's plenty of videos on the web for that. What I am going to do, I'm going to take the tarp off here and build a panel to go up top here. And the idea is that the panels will ride on top and charge my battery while we're traveling. That's what I'm hoping. I can do some stuff with shore power. I also have a small generator that I keep with me. I just like to have a lot of options, but this would be more of a hands-free, sort of an easy option, because I can leave it hooked up all the time and go with that. It's got this box comes with everything needed. You got your solar charger, solar controller and charger, your combiner cable that hooks to your battery. This hooks from your combiner cable into that, and then you got the LED lights. And we'll go through all that when I take this out of the box and start putting it together. And then we're going to charge this, which is a pretty good setup. Now, I left this sitting. We came home in November and decided, because of COVID and all the restrictions that are going on, that we would spend most of the winter here at home, and that's what we did. But we're getting back on the road, itching to get on the highway. So this has been sitting for a few months. It's running a little low. It's got 12.4 volts, so it's down below where it should be. What I'm going to do, we'll see how long it takes us to charge this up from where it's at right now. So stay tuned. All right, the good news is this panel appears. It does. It comes with its own. Each of these has its own individual cable, which is connected in there with a strain relief. Now, my understanding on those is they're a little on the fragile side. There's one panel. You get this box comes with 4 panels, and I believe it's just basically. I thought it was going to be a lot flimsier than that from the reviews. I thought it was going to be bigger and more flexible than that. And I was worried about putting this on top of my truck. I'm worried about possibly having it flex and bend while I'm going down the road. I don't think that's going to be a problem. This feels like a pretty sturdy case. But this thing's got a kickstand on the back. Blue light's on, so it's already charging off even just a little bit of sunlight that we got. It's cloudy. We're not in direct sunlight, but we're not indirect either. We're not doing too bad. Blue light's on. There's 4 of these panels, so I'll get the rest of them out. Comes with instructions. We'll get a look at those in just a minute. It's even showing the blue light. You can see there the blue light showing through the bag, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's getting light enough through the bag that you can see that it's charging. So that's kind of cool. One review that I saw, this thing will actually charge with a little bit of snow over top of it, which is cool. Let's take a look at what's in the box here. It's a pretty simple setup. There's your charge controller with the LED screen, plug in for the solar, or you can wire the solar in your light. You can wire everything here, hardwire. You got connections here. I believe the battery has to be hardwired. A couple USB connectors and your control buttons there. There's your clamp to go from the controller to the battery, and that's got the clamp down, the screw down clamp connectors. That is your direct connection into here, and that comes out of, my understanding, the combiner, which is right here. So all 4 of those panels will hook, each of those panels will hook into one of these here, and then the other end of this will hook into here. We'll get that figured out in a minute. I believe this is the end, this is the main end here. We'll get that figured out in just a minute. Here's the hardware for putting them together, and I'm gonna have to look at the instructions to see exactly how they're doing that. I got an idea just based on the holes on the back, but I'm gonna look at the instructions because I don't always use the instructions, but when I do, it's because my wife made me, or because I want things to go like they're supposed to go. And then, oh, these are your LED lamps. So these are a DC socket with a DC LED bulb in it. My understanding on these is you can't use a regular LED bulb. You got to have the special DC powered ones. But we're going to find out about that too. That's something else I'm going to test with this thing. So these we'll just set aside. We'll set the lights aside because I'm not going to fool with those at the moment. Those will be something we deal with in a little while. But we will start putting this thing together. And I'm just going to look at the instructions. My assumption is that everything is pretty simple here. We'll go ahead and take this out and connect the battery cables to it. I'm not an expert. If you really want an expert opinion on this, there's plenty of places to get it. This is just supposed to be an everyman video with a practical application. I want to see if this works. Right now I'm hooking the combiner, this large cord, to the adapter. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can wire these directly in here, which I'd prefer not to do if I don't have to. Or you can use this adapter here and push them together, and they're tight. It's a tight fit, which is good news. Yeah. Now for this test, we're just going to do this. Let's hook this to the battery. So we got this battery cable here, right? And I would concur with one of the videos. The guy said those clamps are pretty chintzy. If I was me, and sometimes I am, I probably will get a little heavier wire for that and some nicer clamps at some point. My other question is going to be whether or not I can unhook the inverter from the battery and power the inverter directly with this. I'm guessing the answer to that's going to be no, but I'm gonna give it a shot at some point. So the instructions here are pretty clear. Just connect the battery cable, the battery wire, to the charge controller. So you can connect this end into your charge controller, and it's in the instructions. If you buy this thing, you're not going to be in the dark. If you can read, you'll be able to connect it. It's pretty simple. So let's hook this up to the battery. That goes there. All right, it's firing up. What do we got? 12.4. So this is pretty accurate with my Stanley. I have my Stanley battery charger, and this is pretty accurate with it. So the next thing we're going to do, we'll walk right over here and connect these. I'm going to connect these to the deal. This says I have 3 bars on the battery, so that's a little bit, about half. We'll turn on the inverter. That says we have 12.7 volts. Now the inverter says we have 3 bars on the battery, so it's charging a little bit. I mean, obviously it didn't make that much of a difference, but before I fired this up, we only had 2 bars. We were below half. So right now we're pushing 12.8 volts, which is pretty cool. I'm going to shut the inverter off and let this thing charge, and we'll come back. All right, we're getting caught back up here, starting again on this solar panel project for my Palomino B1200 pop-up slide-in camper. One thing I will say about this kit, it's pretty simple. It's made pretty easy for anybody that gets it. It comes with pretty easy to read instructions, and it comes with all the parts to get it going. Everything from the panel to the straight down to the charge controller, and the clamps to connect it to your battery. It doesn't come with a battery, obviously, but it says easy assembly and installation, and that's no lie. It actually came together pretty easy. However, to use it the way they have it set there, to just use it as a portable where you can flip it up on the little kickstands, pretty simple. But what I have to do is mount it on top of my Palomino right here. It's got a tarp on it for the winter. I tour out of this, and if you're just tuning in, it's a small camper. It fits an 8-foot bed. I can close the tailgate on it if I have the tailgate on, but I don't usually keep the tailgate on there because I don't want to get locked inside by somebody closing my tailgate. Anyways, I use 1 battery. It's a Walmart EverStart, and it's 100 and some amp hour battery, and it actually works pretty good. It does the job for the most part. And when we're on tour, we stop at we tend to stay at places. We have friends out on the road, and we'll stay at their places, or occasionally we'll stay at a campground so we can do laundry, and we can hook up to shore power and charge it up. And I also mount a generator on the back of the truck that I can use to charge it up. But what I'd like to do, what I'm hoping is going to happen with this thing, is when I mount these panels on top, it's going to charge the battery at least a bit while we're on the road. When we're rolling down the highway, I won't be using the kickstands. They're just going to lay flat, and I hope that's going to work for them. These are the amorphous silicon panels, which they don't have to have direct sunlight. They don't have to have. They can work on a cloudy day. So we'll see how that works. Hopefully they'll ease some of the pain in the butt for us. The problem is, I want to keep the weight down, and I went and bought a bunch of material to build this with. I bought a couple of pieces of 1x4 and 1x2, and I think I'm going to opt out of using the 1x4, and my original plan, I'm just going to kind of scrap it, and I'm just going to fasten these together on 2 1x2s, one at the top, one at the bottom, then build a little box to support the sides and underneath, right straight down the middle. I want to support them underneath the middle. Basically, each end, each side, and down the middle, they'll be supported, and then the 1x2s that are connected to the end will run the width of the camper, and then I can fasten them with I'll use some kind of a metal strap. I've got some aluminum. I'll use a strap to fasten the ends of those down to the side of the camper. So the next step is start cutting some wood. Be sure to use safety precautions. I always use earplugs when I'm running a saw, just because I did construction when I was a younger man, and I didn't take too many precautions, and my hearing suffered for it, and I don't want to make it any worse. Alright, the measurement up on top is 85 and 7/8. Probably could make it 86, but I believe we're going to go just a shade short. That way it'll make it easier to tighten stuff up there. I had these brackets, these angle brackets. They were a little too big for this 1.5 inch, this 1x2, which is actually 3/4 by 1.5 inch, obviously. So I split them, not right in the middle, because there's this dent in the middle for strength, and that's kind of tough to cut with the tin snips that I was using. So I cut them off to the side of that. That'll work just fine for what we're doing. We'll fasten those on with the screws that came with them. Alright, when we called it quits last night, I said I was going to paint this thing this morning. But, fortunately, my wife had some leftover paint, and she was able to get this done last night. She used some good exterior, some Rust-Oleum out of a can. Instead of a rattle can, she just brushed her down in the house last night. Paint was not as much for protection, because this is treated wood, as it is for just the fact that I kind of want it to blend in with the top of the camper. I don't want it to be quite as visible as it would be if it was just a green wood. So the next thing that we're going to do to it, I'm going to flip it over, and I've got some garage door seal that we're going to glue down in all the places that might make contact with the top of that camper. So this is what we're going to use. It's just a basic 9-foot weather seal for a wood garage door. It's made out of rubber. We're going to glue it on with some heavy-duty Gorilla construction adhesive. It's all weather, so that's good, because this is going to be out in the weather. It's going to be pretty well exposed, so that's the next step in this process. We'll cut these down to size. These little end pieces I added on here, I doubled up the ends to give me a little extra grip for my tie downs that are going to hold this steel in place. So they were kind of an arbitrary size, because they were just the ends of these longer boards when they were cut to sides. So these longer 1x2. So I cut 4 of them and put them on the ends there. Since last night, that's the last thing I did after I turned the camera off. I thought about, kind of wanted to have something a little more to grip a hold of. I'm just going to cut these about 10 inches, give or take. Alright, the next thing we need to do here is get this thing squared up. And basically, that's pretty easy. We just do a corner-to-corner measurement, and all things being equal, everything is where it should be, then these corner-to-corner measurements should be even. That's 64 inches. That's 65 inches, so we're about a ½ inch out of square here. About 64 and a half, I think, should be our target number. pretty close there. Maybe off just a little bit. Let's see where we are. Yeah, it's pretty even. So we're pretty square now. So now that we got them square, should be able to lay those panels on here and mark out where we're going to nip these things down. Alright, I got the panel situated on the roof. For whatever reason, I didn't turn the camera on to video us lifting them up here, but I think they weigh maybe about 40 pounds tops, probably not even that. It's not very heavy. You just have to be careful because these are glass and they're not real flexible, so if you go twisting that frame, getting them up there, you might have a problem. But it sits up there real nice, about like I figured, and the next thing we have to do is make brackets to attach this. I don't want to put holes straight down into this, so I'm going to put a hole here and a hole here, and I'm going to use quite a bit of silicone just to kind of make sure that we're in tight to this right here. So we'll go here and here, and hopefully that'll hold them down when we get up to 70 mile an hour. So once again, my camera failed me here, but I cut these pieces 9 inches long out of this piece of 6-inch aluminum stock, 6x2, and then 6x1.5, I guess. Then I just used a C-clamp, clamped them all down on the sawhorse, bent them over the edge, and let's see how those are going to shape up. This bracket goes about right where I wanted it to. I'm going to fasten it here, here, and on top. The mistake that I made, because I didn't take into account that the roof on this thing has a little bit of a slope. So it's actually a couple inches thicker here, so that's going to come up short. So I've got to cut 2 more of these brackets and start from square one with them. Alright, so then we're just going to bend them over at 90 degrees as close as we can get it. There, now we got it. This is where it counts the most on the holes, because we're going to put some silicone on the back of this and hopefully make sure that these holes are the only thing that's actually going into the camper. So the paint dried on these. It's not a perfect paint job, but it covered what we wanted to cover. Now it's time to go install these things and put them on the camper. I had to load the camper into the truck and get it jacked up because my wife's doing her part, getting the inside ready to go because we're hitting the road tomorrow. So I'm going to install these with this in the up position. The good news, having that extra weight on top didn't seem to be too much of a stress on the lift system. There was a little bit of a heave when it was going up. It was lifting one side a little bit uneven, then it caught itself up. So no major problems when we lifted it though. So I'll install these brackets, and then it's time to run the wires. Next thing we're going to do is attach this bracket right here. These triple coated deck screws. There's 2 in the top and 2 in the side. So the panels are mounted. You saw that in the earlier video where we used those brackets to mount this, put this frame together and mount that. I taped down the wires on the roof with Gorilla brand duct tape. And this stuff is, I assume it's going to do the job because it's pretty sticky, very sticky, and pretty thick. So it's a little difficult to work with actually, because when you go to tear it, I have a habit of stretching it a little bit, and sometimes even just peeling it off, it rips because it sticks so good. So, but it's also very thick. But anyways, so I basically just wiped down the area where I was going to tape and dried it off. Wiped it with a wet towel, wiped it off, and then taped that down. And then on the sides, I used, I'll show you what I used here real quick. Scotch brand, extremely strong, and this stuff says it's good for indoors and outdoors and all of that. Locks when wet or dirty, good for indoor use or outdoor use. And so I just put it in a couple of spots and then ran it right through my extension, where my extension cord goes for my shore power for my camper. And then what'll happen when I pop this top up, I'll just have to unfasten those 3 down there, pull a little bit of slack out, and make sure that I got enough so that I got about another, this thing goes up about 16 inches or so, something like that, maybe a little bit more. So I just have to get the slack, and so the next thing to do is to fasten this thing in the, to get this thing wired up inside. So we got a rat nest over here in the combiner. That's the cable that connects all 4 of your panels together, combines them, that's why it's called that, I guess. And yeah, this wire, this is the end of the combiner. I got it out of here. So what I want to do is get this untangled so I can run my cord, and I'll show you what I've got here. So that hole over there, not the one with the water line, but the one on the bottom there, that's where my shore power goes in and out. And I also have an extension cord right here that goes out there, and then what happens is this cord goes back to my battery, and I'll show you. Goes underneath, and my battery is right. If I can get that open. My battery and my inverter are right there. And so this cord, hope I'm not making you too dizzy, goes back to there and plugs into those outlets right there. And then basically what I'm going to do is run this, which is the solar connector, it's on the end of the combiner, through the same hole. And then I'm going to attach the solar charge controller, there we go, I'm running wires and talking at the same time here. So the solar charger is going to go there. Charge controller is right there. Okay. I'm going to mount it right here. I'm a little close, but that's next to the door where my battery is. So I just push in there, open that up. There's my battery. And this is the power coming in to the charge controller. That's the solar connector. And then these clamps go to the battery. So we'll get that set up and make it happen here. I'm going to mount this with some command strips, picture hanging, damage-free picture hanging strips. And the reason I'm not making this permanent, there's a couple reasons. I don't want to put any more holes in my camper, but also, if this doesn't work as advertised and it doesn't do what I need it to do, I don't plan on keeping it on top of my roof. I don't need that extra weight up there. I'll use it for something else. But if it works for what I'm trying to use it for here, I'll make a more permanent installation. And then you peel the backing off, and I stuck one half of it on here, and now I've stuck its counterpart on here with the backing still on. I'll take that backing off and we'll stick that on to the deal. I'm going to try to do this while holding the camera because I don't have a tripod at the moment. We're running behind trying to get out on the road here, and so I wanted to make sure to get this video done, but I didn't get carried away bringing out all the cameras, so I'm just using my phone right now. So, all right, so we'll just basically take this. That's right side up right there. Sorry, that's right side up right there. And I'm just going to stick it right there and mount it, push it in. Okay, so this charger, well, let's get some solar power to it. Let's get her hooked up to a battery. Bear with me moving the camera here. So obviously the red goes on the positive here. These clamps are a little bit chintzy. If you really want to do a nice job with it, my recommendation would be to get some better clamps. Just get a different wire, wired up differently. So I should be able to, if I get these wires flat, if I get these wires flat out the end here, should be able to get this to close. Anyways, it says it's charging. It says we got 13.8 volts. And it says, these arrows, what they mean. This one says you're charging. That's your solar panel. I'm sorry, let me get this better. That's your solar panel. That says you're connected. It says you're charging. The battery's full because I charged it up before I put it here. And then that's your deal for your lights, because you can hook these lights right into here. This thing comes with 2 LED lights that you can plug into these outlets here. And then there's an extra outlet for something else. I'm not sure what that's for. And you can always hardwire your stuff in down here too. You can hardwire your solar panels and your light bulbs into here, these bottom deals. But right now it says we got 13.7 volts. And there's power coming in. So we're ready to rock and roll here with the solar. And of course, the last thing I'm going to do is electrical tape all of these connections, especially the ones that are on the outside. But, you know, other than that, it's just a matter of wrapping electrical tape. But we'll see once we get on the road here how this works, if we can use our TV. And by my calculations, we should be able to use the TV and most of the things that we're going to use and gain power during the day when the sun's out. And at night, we've got enough battery to do what we need. If we can keep it charging up, that'll be cool. Yeah, I've had a couple of people ask me about whether my solar panel installation was successful in doing what we wanted to do on this trip. And the short answer is yes. It's doing about what I expected. You saw there in the first of the video, that's the panel frame and the wiring that's taped down. I used some Gorilla tape, some waterproof Gorilla tape to tape those wires down to the roof.
I was a little worried that that wouldn't hold up to the weather, but it looks like it's doing pretty good because we've come through some pretty serious rain and wind. And I've had this thing over 80 miles an hour a couple of different times in the mountains here. So as far as the installation, that's holding together pretty good, just like I figured it would. It turned out pretty clean. And as far as the general ability of this thing to do what we need it to do, it does what we need, but that's because we spend a good part of the day on the road. This thing will charge the battery. If I get my battery about half charged, if I drop it down overnight, we watch TV, we got a fan, the furnace on these colder nights, we've been able to do that. And generally, we get down to just above half charge overnight, and then this thing will charge it right back up on a sunny day. On a cloudy day, it takes all day to get it charged up. So, and then we had one day where it was nice and dark and rainy, and I had to, when next time we got on to shore power, I had to boost it a little bit with the my charger that I have. But that was only once, and this has been the last 13 days. We've been living out of this. Last night we stayed with our friends Adam and Kelly here in Ashland City, Tennessee, and we plugged into shore power and we slept in a real bed. But the 13 nights before that, we lived out of this thing, and we've done pretty good. And it's the solar has held up pretty well. I'm going to take you inside and we'll take a look at what the inside looks like and what the setup generally is about. So I showed you the setup on top, and before we go inside, this is how I got the wires set up on the side. I've got that Velcro, that's that indoor-outdoor Velcro right there, holding the wire there. And then they run down. They're generally loose right now because I got it popped up and we're not going anywhere. But when we're traveling, the wires go into these 3 Velcro pieces here, and it holds them really tight, and it does pretty good. And then whatever's left over, the excess, after we pull down that top, because that's about 18 inches there, I believe that comes down. So you got 18 extra inches of cable, and that gets shoved in here with our shore power cable. And we have to pull that out and loosen up before we pop the top so we don't tear any cables or anything. But other than that, but this ride's really stable. It doesn't flop around, and you can see at the top, it looks like that's holding together pretty good. So I'm happy with the setup. Now the unit that we have is the Thunderbolt Magnum 100 watt solar panel kit. It's 4 panels at 25 watts each. Each has its own cable. And those run down to a combiner cable that combines them into one cable. And basically what I have here is a 125 amp hour EverStart battery and a 1500 watt EverStart inverter. I probably, if I was doing this again, I'd probably spend the money and just get a pure sine wave inverter. But this is doing the job. This runs what we need to run, everything except my Keurig coffee maker. It won't start that thing up. But basically what I have is the combiner that comes from the 4 cables, comes down to here, and it is hardwired right here. It comes with an adapter, so you don't have to hardwire it. You can plug it in here, which was what we did at first, because that seemed the easiest, but the little plug stuck out here a little bit. And I've got this underneath the cabinet, so I thought it was in a pretty safe area, but I dropped the tabletop and it hit the plug and completely busted the plug. So I went ahead and hardwired it, which I think is the better option anyways, because it's up out of the way. And then what's hardwired here is the clamp, or the battery clamps, that go back down here, and they connect to the battery underneath here. And right now, I don't know if I can get this on camera or not. Right now we're showing a fully charged battery, and that was down to just above half yesterday. I have an extension cord under here that I run into this inverter. I run this extension cord into this inverter, then out the back there, where you can see, and then around the side, and I plug it in to power my fridge when we're off the shore power, just temporary. This won't run my fridge very long with the battery. So, but if I'm hopping from place to place and I know I'm going to be on shore power in the next place, I can at least get things cold in here in the fridge. And then what happens is it typically runs this down depending on how far. Yesterday it was about half. We ran it down about half, and then this morning when I came out to check it, the sun was up, and we were at maintenance voltage right there, which is where we've got it set. That's right there. It'll pretty much stop charging at that point, and if it goes above that, it'll sense that it's overcharging and it stops. So right now we're at maintenance voltage, and I have a full charge, and so a day or two we're going to be camping in Blackwell Horse Camp in Bloomington, Indiana, in the Hoosier National Forest, and we'll be 100% reliant on the battery and inverter for most of our power. Now, in an emergency, obviously, I got a 2,500 watt generator on the back, but I really haven't had to use it on this trip. In fact, I fired it up just to keep it from, being sitting idle too long. And I fired it up a couple of times on our last trip, and I've kind of kept it maintained over the winter, but I haven't used it to make any power on this trip, and we've had plenty of power. We've had what we needed. So the short answer is yes, this does work. Now, if you're somebody who wants to be off grid and you're planning on powering everything all day, every day, this might not work for you at 100 watts. You're gonna need more than 100 watts and probably more than one battery, because, like I said, we travel quite a bit during the day. So if I'm driving, this thing will charge up while I'm driving because it's on the top of my truck. I can't aim it directly at the sun because I bolted it down so it's flat on the roof, because that's the only way I could do it. I didn't want to deal with trying to engineer it against wind resistance and everything. I just put it flat, and it seems to work pretty good. But if you're using it for like an RV or whatever, and you just set it outside where you're camping at your campsite, you can point it right at the sun all day long if you want to, and that'll probably help a little bit. But basically speaking, what this does is just maintains this battery. So if I run my refrigerator during the day on the trip, or if I run it low at night while because we've had to run the furnace a couple times, it got downright cold. For South Carolina, it would have been balmy for Michigan, but 30 degrees overnight in South Carolina, and this thing's got a canvas sides on the top of it, so it's not well insulated. So we did have to run the furnace a bit, but this thing has kept up pretty good. So if you're thinking about investing in it, you want to keep that in mind. If it's just something to maintain a battery, if your power usage, like my TV, I got a 32-inch TV that I actually have a net gain with the solar on this. On a sunny day, I can watch the TV and it'll still charge the battery. It'll add to the battery. My refrigerator draws enough that the panels can't keep up, so as we go along, we're actually drawing power from the battery, but it does add back enough to kind of prolong how long that battery will last. I run a fan overnight, a furnace, whatever other appliances we needed to run, as long as it's not a huge amp draw, a huge wattage draw, this thing will last quite a little while. And one of the cool things about this unit here, this particular charge controller, especially if you have an older camper and you haven't invested in LED replacement bulbs for your camper, your lights inside, your indoor lights. All of my bulbs in here are incandescent, and they burn hot, and they take a lot of power for what they do. But this comes with two of these lights like this right here. It's an LED light. I believe it's a specially made LED light, though. I don't think you can put any standard LED bulb in here. It's a DC socket, a long cable. Got this big old wad of cable here, and then a connector that goes right into here. And there's three connectors, three ports on the side here for this type of power. And it comes with two of these lights. And I'll turn them on here and show you. I got them both. They're actually pretty bright. These will light up my camper all night long if I need them. And the cords are long enough that I can string them to both sides, hang them over the middle, over the dinner table if I need to. And so that saves a little bit of power if we get into a bind, even if you get to low battery, as long as it doesn't drop below 11 volts, I think it is. As long as you stay above 11 volts, which is not good for your battery, but in an emergency, if you're at 11 volts, you are where you are. This thing will still power those lights, and you can still charge your phone. And this has been This has come in handy because it's right here under the cabinet. We just plug our phones in at night and set them up on top of the this cabinet here. That's a vanity type cabinet, and so we can charge our phones, and we don't have to think about that. And then of course we got these lights right here in case we don't have enough power to run our overhead lights in the camper, or in case we just want to save a little bit. So that's kind of a cool feature too. And I believe there are other accessories that you can get for these. And again, these things stick out a little bit. So, you know, if they had been plugged in when my solar charger was plugged in here, my combiner cable, they probably would have broken just like it did. But they can be hardwired too. They can be hardwired into these two ports right here. But they definitely work in an emergency.